Imagine opening a dating app tonight. You swipe past 20 people in less than a minute. One seems funny. Another is attractive. Someone else has the perfect job, the perfect dog, and apparently spends every weekend hiking beside a waterfall. You now have access to more potential partners than most humans in history could have met in an entire lifetime. So why does finding one person who stays still feel so difficult? And why can someone who seemed perfect at the beginning feel completely wrong for you 6 months later? Maybe you have felt it happen. At first, you talk for hours. Every notification feels exciting, and you overlook small problems because everything is new. Then, real life arrives. Someone gets stressed. Money becomes tight. A promise is broken. That is usually when you discover the difference between someone who is fun to love and someone you can actually build a life with. But why does that difference matter so much to us? To find out, imagine your phone disappears, your house disappears, and the nearest supermarket is 50,000 years away. You are standing beside a small campfire with perhaps 20 or 30 other people. Beyond the light, there are predators, dangerous strangers, freezing weather, or several days without enough food. Now look at the person beside you. Forget whether they have a good profile picture. The questions are different here. Will they share food if you return empty-handed? Will they protect a child while you are injured? Will they warn you when danger approaches? And when the two of you fight, will they help repair the damage or force the whole group to choose sides? In that world, a relationship is not separate from survival. It is survival. Of course, nobody knows exactly what a perfect relationship looked like 50,000 years ago, but anthropology gives us clues about the qualities that would have made certain bonds especially valuable. The first clue is one of the strangest animals on Earth, a newborn human. Picture a baby horse. Within hours, it may already be standing. Now picture a human baby. It cannot walk, find food, escape danger, or even support its own head properly. Left alone, it has almost no chance. A human baby is essentially a very fragile survival project, and that created a serious problem. Who keeps it alive? The answer was probably not just one exhausted mother and one father carrying a spear. Anthropologists often describe humans as cooperative breeders. It means parents often depended on other helpers, grandparents, siblings, relatives, and sometimes unrelated members of the group. Now imagine two couples living in that camp. The first couple has intense chemistry. Whenever they sit together, everyone notices. Unfortunately, one partner keeps wandering off, hides food, avoids childcare, and becomes impossible whenever there is a disagreement. The second couple is less dramatic. Nobody is writing love songs about them, but they divide the work. When one is sick, the other adjusts. When food is scarce, they share. When they argue, they find a way to speak again before the problem spreads through the camp. Which relationship gives the adults and children a better chance? Probably the less exciting one. That may be the first uncomfortable lesson from our past. The person who creates the strongest excitement is not always the person who creates the greatest security. Your brain still seems to notice that difference. Think about what happens when someone becomes inconsistent. On Monday, they are warm and affectionate. Then on Friday, they return as if nothing happened. Now you are no longer enjoying the relationship. You are investigating it. You reread messages. You notice they were online 11 minutes ago, but somehow missed the message you sent 2 hours earlier. Psychologists sometimes use the term attachment system for the mental machinery that pushes us to seek closeness and security from important people. When that security becomes unpredictable, the system can go on high alert. Beneath all that anxiety may be an extremely old question. Can I count on this person when it matters? Food offers another clue. Imagine a hunter returning to camp after an unusually successful day. He is carrying far more meat than his household can eat immediately. He could hide it. Instead, much of it is shared. Why give away something that required hours of effort and genuine danger to obtain? Because tomorrow, he may catch nothing. Food gathered from the wild is unpredictable. One family may have more than enough today and almost nothing next week. Sharing spreads the risk. Researchers sometimes compare this to social insurance. There was no bank account, refrigerator, or emergency fund. Your emergency fund was the group of people who remembered that you helped them. This is why every shared meal quietly answered a question: who belongs here? That may be why eating together still feels more intimate than it logically should. A first date could happen while walking through a hardware store, but people usually choose coffee or dinner. Weddings include feasts. Families reconnect around tables. Across thousands of years, offering food has remained one of the simplest ways to say, your well-being matters to me. But ancient relationships were not only about food, childcare, and survival. People still wanted romance. Here's a fascinating piece of evidence. Some ancient Mesopotamian texts show that people were writing about romantic kissing by at least 2500 BCE. That reveals something important. Ancient people were not emotionless survival machines. They flirted. They desired each other. They became jealous. They wrote love poetry. One of the oldest surviving love poems comes from ancient Sumer, around 4,000 years ago. It praises King Shu-sin in language that is surprisingly passionate. Long before romantic comedies, humans were already turning attraction into dramatic poetry. Ancient Egyptian love poems sound equally familiar. The writers describe racing hearts, sleeplessness, longing, and the feeling that one particular person is more beautiful than everyone else. Ancient people did not only write about attraction, they also told stories about what happened after the excitement faded. That brings us to Penelope and Odysseus. They were mythological rather than a securely documented historical couple, but their story tells us what ancient audiences admired. Odysseus spends 20 years away from home because of war and his disastrous journey across the sea. Meanwhile, Penelope is surrounded by men demanding that she choose a new husband. She delays them by promising to decide after she finishes weaving a burial shroud. Each day, she works on it. Each night, she secretly unravels part of it. It may be history's most committed use of "I'm still working on it." Why did this story survive for thousands of years? Because Penelope represented loyalty, patience, and cleverness. She actively protected the household. Ancient audiences understood that a strong partnership required more than attraction. It required someone who remained on your side when the situation became absurdly difficult. But no relationship survives without conflict. Imagine living in a camp with the same small group year after year. You cannot simply move to a new city because one conversation became uncomfortable. You may need the person who annoyed you this morning to help defend the camp tonight. That creates strong pressure to repair relationships. Modern researchers use the term repair attempt for any action that prevents a conflict from spinning out of control. It might be an apology, a gentle joke, a pause, or one person finally saying, "That came out wrong." The action may be tiny. The message behind it is enormous. I care more about us than I care about winning this moment. For thousands of years, cooperation helped relationships survive. Then humans began changing the world around those relationships. Roughly 12,000 years ago, agriculture began changing the situation. People settled on land, stored grain, accumulated property, and passed wealth to their descendants. Marriage became tied more closely to inheritance, family alliances, and ownership. Choosing a spouse could also mean choosing who controlled a field, inherited animals, or joined two powerful families. Love did not disappear. It simply had to share the room with economics. You can see this in surviving marriage contracts. Ancient Egyptian documents discuss property, financial support, and what should happen if a union ended. Now bring all of this back to your relationship today. You are not choosing someone to help defend a camp from predators. But when life becomes difficult, your brain still watches what they do. Do they make the crisis lighter or heavier? When they hurt you, do they become defensive or do they try to repair the damage? Do they treat your success as good news or as a threat? Attraction may start the story. Ancient people clearly understood that too. But lasting relationships seem to be built through hundreds of less dramatic moments. A meal saved for someone arriving late. A promise kept when breaking it would have been easier. A person choosing to remain useful when life stops feeling romantic. This may be why some couples collapse after the excitement fades, while others become stronger. The successful couple is not necessarily the one that never struggles. It may be the one that learns how to turn struggle into cooperation. 50,000 years ago, your ideal partner may have been the person who shared food, helped raise children, watched for danger, and remained reliable during hardship. Today, the details are different, but the emotional question is not. When everything becomes difficult, are we still a team? Maybe that is what your brain has been trying to discover from the very first date. Not whether this person is perfect, not whether every day will remain exciting, but whether the two of you can become something humans have always needed. A partnership strong enough to make life more survivable. If you enjoyed learning learning how ancient human life still shapes your behavior today, subscribe for more. And tell us in the comments, what small action makes you realize that someone is truly dependable?